Hey folks, welcome back to Candace Boxing Channel. This is really a question that's been on my mind for a little while, and I thought I would do a video about it and share my thinking with you, and then hopefully get some dialogue and conversation going. And the question, on its face, I know sounds stupid, but the question is, do you think that Eddie Hearn is going to leave boxing? I agree, it sounds preposterous, and a few years ago it would have been laughable. A few years ago, you might remember Eddie Hearn was flying very high. He was mocking Frank Warren, saying things like, "Oh yeah, well, you know, he's a good small hall promoter," and sort of treating Frank Warren like Frank was some sort of, slightly doddery old duffer who'd been around for a while, but now wasn't really with it. Was sort of like, should be consigned to those smoky little sort of rooms above working men's clubs where there's a couple of guys having a bit of a ding-dong almost. It was really sort of like dismissive of him, because of course Eddie was, he's young, flash, he was on DAZN, and at that time Frank Warren really seemed like somebody who was a little bit sort of behind on the technology. And excuse me a second. Oh, nothing better than a cup of tea sometimes. But yeah, Frank Warren seemed as though he was sort of, just being kind of bypassed or swept past, or whatever the expression is. And Eddie Hearn was the go-to guy. He had his favorite YouTubers who were sort of, all genuflecting around him, and sort of he was the man, right? Well, of course, things change. Frank Warren said he was having this game changer, which was, of course, Fury Ngannou, which a horrible travesty of a boxing match. But the point was, Frank Warren was clearly in with Turki Al Sheikh and the General Entertainment Authority in Saudi Arabia, which again is weird because Eddie Hearn was the first fellow to be out there in the Middle East. But it seems that, whoever was Eddie's backers, they kind of faded off a wee bit, or a lot, and Turki Al Sheikh seemed to be in tight with Frank Warren. And now, of course, we see Frank Warren joining DAZN, and quite frankly, Frank Warren seems to have had a rebirth, if that's the right word. I'm not suggesting that he really was sort of, dead, business-wise, I mean, but he seems to now be flying high. And I was just glancing at Matchroom Boxing's fighters that they've got. No, of course, Matchroom Boxing has still got a real good raft of fighters. I'm just going to read some of them, not all of them. He's got AJ, near the end of his career. Katie Taylor, near the end of her career. Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith. I see they're still saying Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson. They've got the new Olympian from the States, Omari Jones, Subram Matthias, Lee Wood, Catterall, Bivol, of course. Dalton Smith, Conor Benn, Craig Richards. Very famous names. But if you go through those names and you start thinking about, well, what's their time horizon? What's their career horizon? You might think, well, some of them are getting a little sort of professionally long in the tooth. Some of the other female fighters, Chantel Cameron, Sky Nicholson, Terry Harper, Sandy Ryan, Alyssa Baumgartner. But I'm not sure if female boxing is going to be that sort of, that anchor store that you find in the mall, right? It's clearly very popular and well-respected female fighters, but I'm not sure if one wants to build build the brand on female fighters. No disrespect, just saying, right? Whereas you look at if you look at Frank Warren, outside of Anthony Joshua, maybe Justice Hooney, all the top heavyweights, and that is the glamour division, right? All the top heavyweights are Queensberry people, except of course the top at the top, Alexander Usyk, but of course he's in a different category, right? And Frank Warren has been down and up and down and up. But one thing, whether you like Frank Warren or not, you can say that he's got a lifetime, a professional lifetime, commitment to boxing. And I'm not quite sure if the same can be said about Eddie. Now, Barry Hearn, of course, founded Matchroom back when I was in university, like over 40 years ago. I'm going to say 82 maybe? 82, 83, something like that. 82, I think. And they've got a much broader spectrum of sports. They're involved in golf, they're involved in table tennis, they're involved in darts, which is huge. They were involved, of course, in snooker. I think that's where they started off in snooker with people like Jimmy White and people like that. So they've got a lot more eggs in a lot more baskets. Boxing is, of course, important, but it's not their only product line, if we can use the language of business, which, of course, it is business. And the other thing is, of course, Barry Hearn founded Matchroom. And I think it's fair to say that when companies are founded by, whether it's Mr. Ford or whatever, as the generations pass, a lot of the times the people who are running the company, the second or maybe the third generation, they don't seem to have the same fire and drive as the original owners. I mean, like here in Canada, Timothy Eaton founded a department store. By the time his grandkids were involved, it was defunct, and now it is defunct. It's gone. It's toast. It's history. And I'm sure there's other examples as well. And I'm not suggesting that Eddie Hearn isn't committed, but Eddie Hearn didn't build it. He built on it. And I think there is a difference. So that's just, my thinking. Like I see now, he's sort of second banana to Frank Warren in the eyes of the Saudis, as I see it. This is, what do I know? I mean, just an observation, right? And I'm not worried. That would be completely the wrong word. I'm interested that Matchroom doesn't seem to be signing the big heavyweights. If you take AJ out of the picture, and of course AJ is still a very big draw, but if you take AJ out of the picture, they don't really have heavyweights. Remember the five against five? They had to rope in Deontay Wilder and Hrgovic. I'm not sure if Hrgovic, he might have been signed to them. I don't remember. Getting old. But they had to draft in enough bodies where Frank Warren could sort of, he could have gone out there and fielded, the second 11 or the third 11 kind of thing. He's just got more depth on the bench, to use a hockey kind of analogy. And I'm interested. What do you think? Do you think Eddie Hearn is, looking at doing something else? Maybe not entirely leaving boxing, but boxing maybe not quite so exciting, particularly after AJ and Katie Taylor, who appear to be his two favourites, after they retire, which can't be more than what would you say? 18 months, 2 years max? When they retire, do you think Eddie's going to play around with maybe his European golf stuff, or do you think he's going to really fight hard to once again be top of the tree and battle it out with Frank Warren? Frank Warren's what, 71 or 72, I think. He certainly shows no signs of slowing down, and Frank Warren does appear to have that family depth and of course talent depth. Who knows? I'd be really interested to know your thoughts on this. I'm not professing to have an answer, and maybe it's a moot, maybe it's just a ridiculous question. In which case, well, we shall see what happens. But stranger things, stranger things. Anyways, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye bye.